Hey guys, this is EckhartsLadder. Hello and welcome to another Star Wars video. So, last time we covered some ships in Revenge of the Sith that are very hard to see. And I want to say thank you guys for giving that video so much support because I really enjoyed making it and I think it's a pretty cool video to be honest. This video is sort of related to that, and instead we'll be looking at the Battle of Coruscant and examining vessels that we didn't actually see on screen but that were in there in canon. So as many of you know, the Battle of Coruscant was a CIS surprise attack against the Republic's capital. They used secret hyperspace lanes and basically took a massive armada to Coruscant and sieged the planet. The Republic in response moved many of their fleets back to the core and a massive scrum over the planet ensued. The movie keeps it pretty simple. The Republic gets one capital ship type, the Venator, while the CIS get four, the Munificent, the Providence, the Recusant, and the Lucrehulk. However, the lore actually gives a whole bunch of other ships that were a part of both sides, and we can actually see some of them in action on the big screen, or maybe it's the small screen. What I'm talking about here is Star Tours, which, to be fair, is completely non-canonical, or at least the actual events of the Star Tours ride itself, but it does give us a look at the Battle of Coruscant, and it's quite strange. We actually see a bunch of different ship types from the CIS. Now, I tried to record footage of this last time I went to Disney. I went on the ride like 3 or 4 times in a row, but I didn't get the Coruscant map. It sort of cycles through them. So I'm going to show you a video that somebody else uploaded with links down in the description. Anyway, when we go to Coruscant, we do see a Venator and a Recusant and a Lucrehulk, but right away we see a different ship in the background. I can't identify this, and it might not exist outside of this simulation ride. Then we have what looks like a Recusant variant, or at least it's the Recusant engine with what looks like a sort of freighter attachment to the front. Next up we have very clearly a diamond cruiser, which does appear in Attack of the Clones, and after that you can see more small freighter variants. Quite interesting, and you have to wonder why for this scene did they just not use the assets that were available to them with the ships that actually appeared in the movies. Personally, I think it's very possible that originally these vessels were intended to be a part of the Battle of Coruscant, but maybe the model wasn't at high enough quality or they didn't look good from a distance, so ILM instead got some use out of them in this. Did these ships actually appear in canon? Well, as I said, Star Tours itself is not canon, but it does sort of portray canon events from an outside perspective, so take it as you will. I do kind of like the idea of there being these separatist capital ship offshoots. I think that's pretty cool. Let me know what you think down in the comments and whether you'd like to see these models appear somewhere else, maybe even given ship names besides for the Diamond, which is, again, an actual ship in both canon and Legends. But let's move on because there's a lot more to talk about besides Star Tours, and there's some stuff that was actually canon, at least within the Legends timeline. And the first thing to note is that Legends puts the size of the battle much larger than it would generally appear just watching during the movie. Thousands of ships on both sides, with the Republic Commando novels explicitly saying that the Republic was getting reinforcements in the thousands. So many ships that the HoloNet wouldn't work and communications were down. Interestingly, most of the CIS ships are basically what we see in the film, but the Republic has a quite expanded arsenal, and some of that is because Legends tried to smooth out the Republic Navy's transition into the Empire. So that means we see some early Imperial vessels, like Victory Star Destroyers, in the late fleets of the Republic, and also that certain vessels, which were said to have been around for a long time, were present in both. An example of this would be the Carrack Cruiser, which was sort of a very common ship and one that would serve pretty regularly within the Empire. So the Revenge of the Sith novelization actually has future Imperial Lorth Nida commanding a small task force of Carrack cruisers which attack the Invisible Hand. Presumably, although we don't see it on screen, there most likely would have been things like Dreadnought-class heavy cruisers, which were pretty common within the Republic. And we also know from books like The Essential Guide to Warfare that very large vessels, like Praetor-class battle cruisers, Mandator dreadnoughts, Maelstrom battlecruisers and others were generally kept in the core to protect the most important planets of the Republic, so it's very likely that as reinforcements were coming in, that at least a couple of those very large ships made it to the battle. However, we have no direct source for that other than extrapolation, given what we know from the Essential Guide to Warfare. But going back to the Revenge of the Sith novelization, we also get explicit mention of Victory Star Destroyers in there, and keeping on the topic of Imperial ships, there were also things like Lancers, early TIE Fighter variants, Star Galleons, and other ships of the like. Now, I've talked about the following excerpt before, but I think it's interesting. In Order 66, which is book 4 of the Republic Commando series, we actually see the Battle of Coruscant from the perspective of troopers. That's where we get the quote, as I said, about the thousands of ships. And specifically, as clones react to the battle, we learn that there's far more ships than they realized the Republic even had, given the fact that they thought they were losing the war, and what's more, they don't recognize them. Not only do they not recognize their name, but immediately they don't even know which side the ships are fighting for. So I think it's at this point that Palpatine most likely introduced some of the new vessels that he was creating for the Empire. We know, for example, that the Tector Star Destroyer and the Imperial 1 Star Destroyer saw some action within Republic fleets. I think this is probably their real coming out party, so to speak. Aside from that, we didn't really see other Republic vessels, but I assume they were there and that the Republic had acclimators, their various corvette and frigate types, and I think the same is probably true for the CIS. I don't think they had anything, say, as large as a Subjugator class heavy cruiser, but they probably had Separatist Dreadnought variants of their Recusants and Providences, which we didn't really see, and we can say the same of starfighters. Just keep in mind, this is the end of the war, and it's the Republic's most important planet. As the CIS was attacking and Republic reinforcements were coming everywhere from the core to the outer rim, it's very likely that almost all Republic ship types saw some action, and what's more, that we saw individual defense fleets called into service. Coruscant would have had its own fleet from the Ruusan Reformation days, and it's also possible that nearby core systems like Corellia or Alderaan or the other dozens of important planets in the core were called to provide assistance in whichever way they could. But that's all I have for you guys today. What did you think of this video? Did you enjoy the first part where I looked at the Star Tours stuff, or the second more traditional lore stuff more? I definitely would like to look at sort of details and missed things from Star Wars media, so if you guys enjoy that, make sure to leave a like and subscribe for more. Other than that, nothing else for today. No hashtag Ask That Question. We'll get back to that next time. Until then, may the Force be with you.